Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. I'm your host, Colin Price, and we're coming up, at least at the time that I'm recording this video, we're coming up on Halloween. It's only a couple of days away, and Halloween is my absolute favorite holiday. You know, Christmas is a second, but I don't even know if I'd call it a close second. Halloween's my favorite. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people like myself who are big into horror, would tell you the same thing. And everyone's got their traditions, right? From carving pumpkins to trick-or-treating if you have kids, or, you know, going to costume parties. Or if you're like me, just watching horror movies. That's the primary tradition. A lot of my favorite horror movies take place either on or around Halloween, whether it's Trick-or-Treat or Night of the Demons. And I think it's time for us to start acknowledging a different Halloween tradition. VHS Halloween. Now, back in my late teens, early 20s, the big Halloween tradition as far as movies was the Saw franchise. You guys remember that? How for a while there, it's like every October there was a new Saw movie like clockwork. And not all of them were great, but it was what it was. A lot of us every October went to the theater to see the new Saw movie. And but those have kind of died out at this point. I think it's pretty fair to say. And now we have a new one in the VHS franchise. For the last several years, there's been some new installment every October in this franchise. Now, for those of you who do not know what the VHS movies are, they're all found footage, but they're horror anthologies, meaning that each film is a collection of short horror stories that just all follow the found footage format. And as the years have gone by, they've been steadily getting better, but every so often, in fact, I think I made this complaint in a video sometime last year, it's like every other one is generally good and every one of them, other one of them is generally bad. That's my common criticism of the VHS franchise. But this one breaks the mold because the one that came out last year, VHS Beyond, actually made my top 10 list, and this one might too. Now, a word of warning, I am really going to try my best here, but because of the nature of this movie, with each short film only being anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes long, avoiding spoilers altogether is going to be near impossible. But I will try to keep everything very minor. I'm not going to be like, this one character with this name and this one short dies like this. I'm not going to do anything like that. But in the course of like explaining the plots of these stories, minor spoilers will be a thing. So if you're not interested, then turn this video off right now. I forgive you. But otherwise, I'd love to give you my opinions because this is one of the best installments in the VHS franchise yet. We'll start with the wraparound. It's called Diet Phantasma. And it's about some people who are trying to push this new product, but they're doing product testing on it. And it's a soda called Diet Phantasma. And it gets kind of ridiculous. Yeah, if you guys like really gory, but also really silly and just going to say kind of pointless body horror, you'll probably eat this one up. As far as wraparounds go, especially for the VHS franchise, I didn't have a problem with it, but it was kind of just every time we cut to it, the soda is having some new, gory, ridiculously violent effect on whatever test subject they've brought in to try it. And for me, it did kind of get old after a little while. There were some humorous bits, but it's like, okay, I get it. We're cutting back to this after each segment, and now what's this soda going to do to this person that's horrible and bloody? And I mean, okay, but when it got to the punchline, when it got to the reveal at the very end, I thought it was kind of underwhelming. Like, really? That's what we've been doing this for? All right, I guess. I've seen wraparounds, especially in the VHS franchise, that are worse, but this one didn't exactly blow me away either. It was fun, gory, but very simplistic. Now on to the first actual segment of VHS Halloween. It's called Coochie Coochie Coo, and despite the name, there is nothing funny or silly about this story. It revolves around two teenage girls who are about to head off to college, so they're kind of at the end of their childhood, so to speak. They're at that phase of life, and they decide that before they split up, they're going to have one last Halloween where they go trick-or-treating and prank certain houses and basically act very childish. They come across a house, however, that is quite a house of horrors and end up encountering, let's just say, an entity that, known in urban legends in the context of the story, is called the Mommy. Guys, they started off really strong with this one. This was a really great, really creepy, and really gross short story. I'm not going to get into any of the details of what happens when these two girls go into this house, but I will say that if body horror is your thing, you're going to love this. What I appreciated more about it, body horror is okay, but it's not really my thing, was kind of the actual haunted house moments. There are, bits where someone peeks around a corner and then dials it back, or sudden jump scares when someone opens a door. And these are all cliches, to be sure, but they're done so well here. And when you get to the entity itself, the reveal of what this thing is, I think this is going to be something that's kind of iconic with horror fans. I can easily see this being something that people reference in horror movies in the future, because this was a really unique idea and design for a monster. I'll leave it at that, but I guarantee you, when you watch this, you have never seen a horror movie monster quite like this. The next short, and forgive me, I'm going to have to look at my notes to pronounce this one right, is called Ut Supra Sic Infra, means as above, so below. And this one I wasn't a big fan of. I'm not going to lie. I mean, when we get to the story, it's about a guy who was with his friends. They broke into this building. I guess a medium had lived there at one point, and everyone dies except for this kid. And so the police are interrogating him, and then they say, okay, well, we want to figure out exactly what happened. So for reasons that I'll never understand as long as I live, they figure the best way to do this is to take this kid back to the building where this horrible thing happened to find out what happened. One, you can very easily tell where this is going, that whatever had happened to these other people in this building is now going to happen to these cops. I'm sorry, if you don't see that coming, I don't know what to do for you. It's an incredibly obvious and simple story, and that really bothered me because they take their sweet time building up to what's going to be the reveal in this, and then when you get to the reveal, it's not even particularly interesting. I will say that it's shot very well, but it's not interesting to me from a storytelling perspective. There's one shot at the end of this short that's a makeup effect that is going to stump me for the rest of my life, but outside of that, there's really nothing to recommend this short. So I didn't care for it. I was really disappointed because this short was directed by the guy who did the Wreck films. And I'm like, God, you've done so much better. What is this? I can only assume that originally this idea he had was a feature film and had a lot more to it and more information as to what's going on, because the way that this short plays out, you're given very little to go on, and it just ends, and then, okay, moving on. I don't know. I wish there had either been more to it, or that what there was made more sense. The next segment is called Fun Sized. And guys, if you talk to most people who watch the VHS films, who follow them and who love them, most of them, like 95% of them, will tell you that the best segment out of any of the films is Safe Haven from VHS 2. I would agree with that, but man, this one comes really close. This one came really close to topping Safe Haven. So it follows a group of 20-somethings, and they decide that they're going to go trick-or-treating because, I guess, why not? They're way too old for it, but they're obviously also like influencers, so they're doing their typical influencer crap and recording everything they do, and they decide that trick-or-treating is going to be something that would make for views, I guess. Anyways, they come up to a house that has just, a bowl of candy on a stool, and there's a little sign that says, don't take more than one. Please only take one. Well, one of them decides to take more than one, and then I'm going to try, guys. I'm really going to try to avoid spoilers for this one because I want to talk about every single thing that happens in it. But I will show discipline as much as I can. They are then sucked into this alternate reality where they are in this factory that manufactures candy. And it's kind of overseen by this, I guess we'll just call him this mascot, who is kind of a cross between Willy Wonka and the mascot for Jack in the Box. It's this really weird creation. He speaks in this high voice and just says, like, fun size, like, over and over again. And, oh my gosh, and there's this thing with a conveyor belt, and there's this thing where, like, gumballs are forcibly shoved up someone's backside. Okay, I swear I'm done. I swear I'm done with spoilers, but man, this was one of the funniest things I've seen all year. The amount of dark comedy in this and kind of gross out humor really got to me. Fun size is gonna be the one that if I'm trying to convince someone to watch this movie, really convince them, I'm gonna tell them, dude, if nothing else, just watch that segment. It's that good. But as silly and cartoonish and ridiculously entertaining as that segment is, there is a very drastic change in tone when we get to the next segment called Kid Print. If you guys remember last year when Terrifier 3 came out, there was kind of a controversy around Art the Clown, killing children because it was Christmas themed and all the promotional materials really hinted that children would be tortured and killed in the film. And there were a lot of people who were really upset about that. And then the movie came out and it turned out that yes, children are killed in the film, but it's always off screen and done relatively tastefully for this kind of stuff. And this year, man, especially with this one, VHS Halloween, oh my gosh, they just don't care anymore. If watching kids being graphically tortured and killed is not your thing, avoid this movie like the plague. I will tell you that I had a hard time getting through Kid Print. It's about a guy who runs a video store, and he's offering this service where people can bring in their kids before Halloween and they can record a video where this child will say, oh, my name is yada, yada, yada. For Halloween, I'm going as yada, yada, yada. My parents' names are yada, yada, yada. And the whole point is that if this kid goes missing, the police can look at this footage and hopefully it will help with any pending investigation. Ultimately, and without going too much further into it, it turns out that this is more of a liability for the kids in this town than it is a comfort. And this one got me to a point. This one got me to a point where I wasn't sure if I could keep watching. I felt physically ill watching this short. It was such a drastic change in tone from Fun Size. And, oh man, I don't know if I want to watch it again. Seriously, it was done very well, but because of that, it really got to me. I don't have kids of my own, but I am an uncle, I have nieces, I have nephews, and just the thought of something like this happening to them, this really came close to making me want to just turn this off. However, because of that, I have to give it a higher rating. This was really effective and really chilling, but it's gonna be something that I could see people watching this movie and being like, nope, that's it, I'm done, because of how graphic the violence toward child characters gets in this. Following Kid Print is the final segment in VHS Halloween. It's called Home Haunt. And they really bring it down a notch after Kid Print, thankfully. This one's about a father and son who every year they do this home haunt attraction where they make their house up to be like a haunted house and they bring people in to go through it. And every year they make it a little better. They expand on it a bit more. And this particular year, the son is, he's gotten older and a lot of kids in his school kind of tease him about this stuff. And he wants nothing to do with it. And the dad's real distraught. He says, okay, well, come on, let's do it one more year. Let's do this home haunt one more year and then we can stop. Only this year, Dad's got a trick up his sleeve. There's a new item, a new prop that he's going to introduce into this home haunt that's going to change everything. With the VHS films, it's pretty common that the last segment is just going to be balls to the wall. Like, we're going to throw the kitchen sink at the viewer. Let's just see what we can get away with and go batshit insane. And this one is no exception. They even got makeup effects genius Rick Baker to do a cameo, and it's great because he's walking through the home haunt and he's kind of taunting the dad, just like, oh, that looks like shit, man, or oh, you did this last year, this looks terrible, you call that a makeup effect, oh my god. That was pretty funny. But what really got me, what I really connected with, was the element of the father and son, and how when things kind of start going to hell, they're all about protecting each other and getting through it. That was really great. That really touched me in a way, and really helped me kind of relate to a story that otherwise is just kind of like, let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Also, it has one of the best final shots of any segment in VHS history. Weighing my thoughts on every segment, I'm going to go ahead and give VHS Halloween 3.5 out of 4 stars. I did really enjoy this one for the most part. It was really only that second story that I thought, oh man, I wish this had been far better than it was. And frankly, for an anthology, to only have one story that you don't really care for, that's pretty damn good. This one might be one that, in Halloween's in the future, that I revisit and rewatch, because a lot of this was really effective and a lot of it was really creative. That's really what I like about the VHS movies in general, is that it gives these filmmakers a reason to just kind of go nuts and really just put out what they want to put out. And, in kind of a cinematic ecosystem where there's a lot of restraints, especially in horror these days, I love stuff like this. That's my review for VHS Halloween. Stay tuned, I got a lot more coming. And thank you for watching Priceless B Movies.